You got to win the midterms. Because if we don't win the midterms, it's just going to be, I mean, they'll find a reason to impeach me. I'll get impeached. We don't impeach them. You know why? Because they're meaner than we are. We should have impeached Joe Biden for 100 different things. They are mean and smart.
Yesterday at the House Republican retreat in Baltimore, Donald Trump said something he almost never says. He admitted vulnerability. Standing in front of the party he needs to protect him, Trump warned that if Republicans don't win the midterms, Democrats will find reasons to impeach him. Then he went further. Quote, I'll get impeached, end quote. Not they'll try, not they'll fail. I'll get impeached, stated as a certainty. Why would an innocent president say that? Why would someone confident in the legality of their actions predict their own impeachment with such certainty? The answer is simple. He knows what he did. He knows invading Venezuela without congressional authorization exposes him to impeachment. He knows stonewalling the Epstein files creates serious legal jeopardy under a law he signed. He knows pardoning 1,500 violent criminals, including child sex offenders, opens him to charges of corrupt use of power. And he knows that if Democrats take back the House, these actions will be investigated and he'll face consequences. This wasn't a slip of the tongue. This was a confession disguised as a rallying cry. And it came exactly 24 hours after Maxine Waters, one of the most senior Democrats in the House, reversed her position and announced she's reconsidering impeachment over Venezuela. Trump's fear and Waters' flip happening within a day of each other isn't a coincidence. It's momentum building, and Trump sees it coming. Let's decode what Trump just revealed, why his language proves guilt, and what it means that impeachment is now a question of when, not if. Trump's exact words at the Baltimore retreat tell you everything you need to know about his state of mind. He warned Republicans that if Democrats win the midterms, they'll find reasons to impeach him. The word find is critical here. Find implies something hidden but discoverable, not invented, not fabricated. If there were no legitimate grounds, Trump would say they'll make something up or they'll invent charges. But he didn't say that. He said find, because the reasons exist. They're sitting there in the public record, in his own statements, in the evidence. And he's terrified someone with subpoena power is going to pursue them. Then he said, quote, I'll get impeached, end quote. Not they'll try but fail, not they can't touch me, not I'm confident in my innocence. I'll get impeached. That's certainty. That's a prediction based on his understanding of what he did and what the consequences will be when those actions are investigated. Innocent presidents don't warn their party that losing an election means their own prosecution. Guilty ones do. Compare this to how other presidents have handled opposition control of Congress. Barack Obama, Nickens take the House, they'll impeach me. George W. Bush never warned Republicans they had to win or he'd face consequences. Even Bill Clinton, who was actually impeached, didn't predict it preemptively with this kind of fearful certainty. Confident presidents defend their actions on the merits. Trump is begging his party to keep power because he knows his only shield from accountability is Republican control of the House. And there's another layer to the language that's revealing. Trump said Democrats will find reasons, but also told Republicans their victory is essential. That's desperation. That's someone who understands their freedom depends on their party maintaining power. When a president frames midterm elections not as a policy question, but as a personal survival mechanism, you're looking at someone who knows they're vulnerable to legitimate legal consequences. This isn't political gamesmanship. This is the psychology of guilt. Now, let's talk about what changed in the last 24 hours that has Trump this scared. On Saturday, January 4th, Maxine Waters was asked about impeachment over the Venezuela invasion. Her response was dismissive. She said Congress doesn't have time for that. She wanted to focus on other priorities. Venezuela was bad, she said, but impeachment wasn't worth the effort. That was Saturday. On Sunday, January 5th, 24 hours later, Waters announced she's reconsidering that view. She said launching war without congressional authorization is an impeachable offense. She said Congress cannot let this stand. What changed? More information came out. Trump's seize the oil comments were fully reported. His threats to Venezuelan officials became clear. The fact that this isn't a quick operation, but an indefinite occupation designed to run the country and extract resources for corporate profit became undeniable. Waters saw the full scope and reversed her position. This matters because Maxine Waters is not impulsive. She's been in Congress since 1991. She's chaired the House Financial Services Committee. She's an impeachment veteran who called for Trump's removal early in his first term. When Waters reconsiders, it's not a knee-jerk reaction. It's a considered judgment. And if she flipped in 24 hours, others will too. That's momentum. And she's not alone. Multiple House Democrats have explicitly called Venezuela an impeachable offense. Ro Khanna said this is clearly an impeachable offense because launching war without congressional authorization violates the Constitution. Jim McGovern called the strikes illegal and impeachable. Richie Torres said no single individual has the authority to commit the nation to war without Congress. Betty McCollum called Trump's actions blatantly illegal and demanded that Speaker Mike Johnson rein in this out-of-control president. The Congressional Progressive Caucus released a statement saying they cannot understate the severity of the consequences from such reckless actions. The case is being built, the caucus is forming, and Trump knows it. So let's be clear about what Trump did and why it's impeachable. Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution gives Congress, not the president, the power to declare war. Trump launched a military invasion of Venezuela without a congressional vote. That's a textbook violation. The War Powers Resolution, passed in 1973, requires presidents to notify Congress within 48 hours of military action and get authorization within 60 days or withdrawal. Trump has done neither. He's been conducting boat strikes in the Caribbean since September of last year. That 60-day deadline passed in early November. The Venezuela invasion is even more egregious. No notification, no authorization, just an illegal occupation. And this isn't a gray area. It's not a matter of interpretation. Trump himself removed any ambiguity when he said the United States is going to seize the oil and run the country. He admitted the motive. This isn't about arresting Nicolas Maduro on drug charges, which was the pretext. This is about corporate resource extraction. Trump said it out loud, not just a war powers violation, but what legal scholars argue constitutes conduct prohibited under the Geneva Conventions. Occupying a nation to extract resources for private profit isn't even pretending to be legal under international law. But Venezuela isn't the only impeachable offense Trump is worried about. There's the Epstein files, a bipartisan law passed 427-1 in the House and unanimously in the Senate, required the release of classified documents related to Jeffrey Epstein by December 19th. Trump signed that law. Pam Bondi missed the deadline, claiming she needs more time to review what she called a million more documents. That statutory deadline wasn't a suggestion. It was the law. Missing it is obstruction. Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie are already drafting articles of impeachment over it. Then there's the January 6th pardons. Trump pardoned 1,500 people convicted of violent crimes at the Capitol. 33 have already been rearrested. 6 of those are for child sex offenses, not crimes at the Capitol. New crimes committed after Trump freed them. That's corrupt use of the pardon power. Representative Jamie Raskin has called this creating a private militia of people loyal to Trump. Trump has also been conducting boat strikes in the Caribbean since September, operations that have resulted in over 100 reported deaths without congressional authorization. He's weaponizing the Justice Department and potentially entangling himself in financial corruption through the Trump coin and Venezuelan oil contracts. Each of these creates grounds for impeachment. So when Trump says Democrats will find reasons, he's not wrong. The reasons are everywhere. They're public, they're documented, they're admitted. The question isn't whether grounds exist. The question is whether anyone with power will act on them. And that brings us to the midterms. Right now, Republicans control the House with a 5-seat majority: 220 Republicans, 215 Democrats. To impeach a president, you need 218 votes, a simple majority. If Democrats win just 6 seats, they take control. Speaker Mike Johnson is gone. Hakeem Jeffries becomes Speaker. Jamie Raskin or Jerry Nadler likely chairs the Judiciary Committee. Subpoena power returns. Investigations restart, and articles of impeachment get drafted. Trump knows this. That's why he told Republicans, you have to win. He's not framing the midterms as a policy debate. He's framing them as his survival. If Republicans hold the House, investigations get buried. If Democrats win, everything gets exposed, and Trump will be impeached. Now, let's be clear about what impeachment means here. Even if the House impeaches Trump, the Senate would have to convict with a 2/3 vote to remove him from office. The Senate is currently 53 Republicans to 47 Democrats. You'd need 20 Republican senators to vote to convict. That's not happening. Trump will almost certainly not be removed even if impeached. But that's not the point. The point is the investigation. The point is the evidence being made public. The point is Trump officials being subpoenaed and forced to testify under oath. The point is putting every Republican in Congress on the record about whether invading a country for oil without authorization is acceptable. The point is creating a historical record that this happened, that it was illegal, and that one party chose accountability while the other chose complicity. And there's a broader danger Trump is creating here. By making Republican control of the House synonymous with his personal freedom from prosecution, Trump is giving Republicans an incentive to hold power by any means necessary. If losing means their leader goes to prison, what won't they do to stay in power? Voter suppression becomes not just advantageous, but necessary. Refusing to certify elections becomes not just partisan, but existential. And using violence, either through state power or through the private militia of pardoned rioters, becomes a tool they can't afford not to use. That's the authoritarian logic Trump just made explicit. It's not about governing, it's about survival. And when survival depends on power, power becomes something you never voluntarily give up. So let's address the conservative defenses you're going to hear. They'll say this proves Democrats will weaponize impeachment, that it's a partisan witch hunt. But Trump didn't say Democrats are inventing charges. He said they'll find reasons. He admitted the reasons exist. That's not a defense, that's a confession. They'll say Venezuela was legal because Trump was executing an arrest warrant, and that Article 2 gives the president inherent military authority. But the Constitution is explicit. Article 1, Section 8 gives Congress the sole power to declare war. The War Powers Resolution requires authorization. You can't invade a country to execute a domestic arrest warrant. That logic would justify invading any nation. And Trump didn't stop at arresting Maduro. He's occupying the country, seizing resources, and running the government. That's not an arrest operation. They'll say impeachment is just politics, that voters should decide. But voters can't decide on constitutional violations while they're happening. That's why impeachment exists. It's the constitutional remedy for a president who abuses power. Trump isn't being accused of policy disagreements. He's being accused of launching war without authorization, obstructing statutory deadlines, and corruptly using the pardon power. Those are high crimes. They'll point to Obama bombing Libya and Syria. But Libya had United Nations Security Council authorization. Syria involved invoking existing military authorizations. Neither Obama nor Biden said we're seizing their resources and profiting our corporations. Trump said exactly that. Venezuela isn't a counterterrorism operation with international backing. It's explicit occupation for corporate extraction. Trump admitted it. That's the difference. So, where does this go from here? In the short term, expect more Democrats to join Waters in reconsidering impeachment. The caucus is building. As the Venezuela occupation continues, as Epstein files remain unreleased, as more pardoned rioters get rearrested, the pressure grows. Trump's confession at Baltimore will be used against him. Democrats will point out that even Trump knows it's impeachable. The midterms become a referendum on accountability. Democrats will campaign on holding Trump responsible. Republicans will campaign on stopping what they call a partisan witch hunt. If Democrats win, investigations begin in January 2027. Articles of impeachment get drafted by spring. A House vote happens by summer. If Republicans hold the House, Trump survives until 2028. But the legal exposure doesn't go away. Post-presidency prosecution becomes more likely. And every day Trump remains in office while violating the War Powers Act, he's committing an ongoing impeachable offense. Here's the bottom line. Trump told Republicans yesterday that if Democrats win the midterms, he'll be impeached. He's right. Not because Democrats are inventing charges, but because Trump committed impeachable offenses and he knows it. He invaded Venezuela without congressional authorization and said out loud he did it to seize oil and run the country. He's obstructing a bipartisan law on the Epstein files that he signed. He pardoned 1,500 violent criminals, 33 of whom have been rearrested, including 6 for child sex crimes. He's conducting operations in the Caribbean that have resulted in over 100 reported deaths. Every single one of those is documented, public, and impeachable. When Trump says Democrats will find reasons, he's admitting the reasons are there. When he says he'll get impeached, he's predicting consequences based on his actions. When he begs Republicans to win so he doesn't face accountability, he's confessing that his only defense is power, not law. Maxine Waters saw the evidence and changed her mind in 24 hours. Other Democrats are following. The caucus is forming. The constitutional case is clear. Trump knows it. He just told you so himself. The question now isn't whether he's committed impeachable offenses. The question is whether voters will give Congress the power to act on them. That's what the midterms are about. That's what Trump just admitted. And that's why he's scared.
Thanks for spending a few minutes digging into this with me. If you want more grounded, progressive commentary without the outrage bait, subscribe and stick around. Every time you watch, share, and engage, it helps build a community that believes democracy is worth understanding and defending. I'll see you in the next video.